Hello, welcome to the award-winning Gutter. Well, it's going to be another pissed-off Gutter show, I think, because it's 2 days since we did the last one. We've still bought no mofos. Josh is going to be here to be pissed off with me. Josh Williams is going to be pissed off with me, but we have a debutante. The raw Keo. The actual Keo. Keo in the flesh. Yeah, we got... Not naked, raw. What are these words the kids use?
No, keep that on, Keo.
Keo exposed. Hi, Keo. How are you?
Yeah. I was just saying to you off air, wasn't I? What a week to make your debut on
I know.
on the Gutter.
The week where everything.
Well, it depends on where you look at it, really, doesn't it? I mean,
it's nothing like a terrible week in the transfer window to get you all juiced and ready. You know, at the end of the day, you don't get to enjoy the highs of signing players you've never heard of before unless you enjoy the lows of weeks on end of signing nobody. And there's nothing better than a top transfer like Zubimendi falling through to set the tone for looking forward to signing no marks and make you happy about that. In fact, later in the show, we're going to talk about... I think I've got to do this show in 3 parts, he said, doing live admin, haven't I? Yeah. Isn't there inserty kind of crap to do? Or you're just going to edit me afterwards?
There's advert stuff to do. I won't worry too much about it.
I'll do the adverts. Who do you want me to advertise?
Neil's not here.
This is video and free. Sorry, it's normally more professional if you're behind the paywall. I totally forgot where I was. Yeah, and it's normally really good and we talk positively about transfers and stuff. But anyway, Keo, hi.
Hello, mate.
Do you like transfers? We've never done this before. You got it, haven't you?
Yeah, it depends what way you look at it. I don't like when people go over the top moaning about players they've never heard of. But
yeah, we do that here.
I'm the same as everybody else in the sense of we need to sign a couple of players, and I think that's obvious. So I'd like to see it happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be one of the ones who, are absolutely fuming and think the whole thing's fell down and it's not going. We're not going to win anything. I'm not one of them. But I do think we need a player or two.
I do too. I'm one who I desperately do want players. I love transfers, but actually, when the real football starts, I actually flip. And if we win a game, I couldn't give a fuck. I want them all. I think they're all too good. Win 2 games. I never want to transfer again. I think, I said it in the last show, about February time, I probably had a pint on me or something, but I tweeted, I don't think actually we need any transfers this year because we were top of the league and everything, etc. But we're not top of the league, Josh Williams. We're not top of the league. We've just come out of this phase where Zubimendi's turned us down at the last minute. But I've got to put a mad one to you because it came on my timeline yesterday. A mad report that Liverpool were planning to raise their bid for Zubimendi, which I thought was so wild. I actually could see something in it, and I know that's wishful thinking mainly. But although Zubimendi has said, hey, I want to stay, because apparently he loves mountains, and what else does he love? Basque food. Like we don't have fucking restaurants and mountains in this country. So you ever been in the Lake District? It's grand there too. Jesus. Fucking hell, Zubimendi. But anyway, so this mad report says we're planning to raise our bid. So there is a scenario where Zubimendi can want to stay all he likes, but if we can tempt Sociedad with some dough, they could say, you know how much we love you and you love us? Well, one part of that equation doesn't apply anymore. We want you to fuck off. Do you think Liverpool would be desperate enough, although I would praise them for being this desperate to raise the bid? And 2, is there any way it could work as a ruse? And 3, actually, here's the third thing. 3, is it possibly true?
I think it would actually be almost a bit of a worse look for Liverpool if we went back in and bid higher and looked that desperate, because so far it looks like we've lost a player, okay, sound, but it looks like we've lost him because he's a home bird and he wants to stay where he is and all that.
Yeah, for noble reasons.
Nothing you can do about it, but if these new fellas in charge now, these new suits, go back in with another bid and finally get him on the back of that, then it's going to look like we were initially just being cheap, which everyone accuses us of. We get battered for. I hate, because it's just really annoying, because sometimes it is genuinely true. So I'm kind of happy to put it to bed, I think. It feels like it's been a saga already and it's only been going on for about a week. Is this the first Gutter since?
No, we did one on Tuesday, didn't we?
We did the one celebrating his arrival, then we did the one... What a show that was. Go and listen to that, man. Then we did the funeral. And this is, I don't know what this is, the stone setting. I don't know.
Yeah, this is the week anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It would have been nice to get the player in, but I don't know. I don't think I can take another saga where it comes back in because Liverpool are bidding 5 million more or something. It'd just sum up transfer season, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it would undo all this sort of like Edwards mystique, wouldn't it? That Josh Sexton, it would undo the sort of like they're not to be pissed about with thing. But in truth, despite that sort of image that has been sort of put about our behind the scenes football suit people. There's been plenty of examples of us. Crumpling like a cheap suit, to use the word suit again. I mean, back in the Van Dijk day, right, signing Van Dijk, we were all haggling with them, upsetting them, and eventually we just had to pay the full amount they wanted, a huge amount of money. I think we sort of hedged our bets with Alisson and ended up paying a record fee. Szoboszlai is a bit of haggling. We just had to pay the €75 million release clause. Caicedo, may I bring to the table, 112 million wasn't exactly haggling, was it? So the idea that Liverpool will only get value or they piss off, or certainly, the cheaper end of a deal or they piss off, is maybe a bit of a myth, I'd say.
It's also a myth in the sense that Liverpool just will basically do anything for their number one target, and it's pretty clear from basically everything that the club of well, again, we need to be careful saying the club have briefed, but from what it sounds like, the club have been briefing over the summer that they think the squad's dead strong. Slot's come out and said it multiple times that he thinks that the squad is really strong. He wants to only sign players who improve on what they have. There's the thing that we keep coming back to on Gutters that Josh raised the other week, where in Ian Graham's presentation, I think it's in his book, which is coming out soon now as well, where he talks about the idea that a transfer fails because you bring in someone who's effectively worse than what you've got. So Liverpool have been dead intent on making sure that that's out there in the press this summer, and then if they were to turn around and go and get some lad who they don't think is as good as Zubamendi, and potentially is not even as good as Curtis Jones in that position, for example, then they're putting themselves onto a loser to my mind. So I would understand if Liverpool were to continue to pursue the player who they've said all along is their number one target. And I think the reason you see, I think it was James Pearce the other day came out, didn't he, after it had all sort of fallen apart, and was like, they're probably not going to pursue anybody else now that it doesn't like it's going to be Zubamendi, and people will fume at that, but it was the same they did with Van Dijk when that move first fell through. I'm sure there's another couple of names who don't come to mind initially, but who Liverpool were intent on that.
He was going to be the Coutinho, sorry to interrupt you, but he was going to be the Coutinho replacement, wasn't he? Just after the summer after Coutinho had left. Fell through. Never ever bloody replaced Coutinho, did we? Not literally, anyway.
Exactly, like Liverpool have shown in the past, and particularly Michael Edwards, because there's a few examples you mentioned, like the Szoboszlai one is not Michael Edwards, and you should sort of say that, shouldn't you? But under Michael Edwards, Liverpool have been pretty intent on this is the number one target. We have all the data to back this up. This is the fella we're going to go for. So to be honest, I wouldn't be wholly surprised if there is some sort of merit in Liverpool going back in there. I'm probably on the side of Josh of where I'm just like, but to be honest, like I'd probably just like us to have other fellas on the list would be where I'd arrive with it, rather than being like this fella is just the be all and end all, because he could be shite. Like we've signed lads who've been shite, who've been on one targets. Ian Abikator.
Well, yeah. Again, let's go back to sort of the myth and the reality around Liverpool transfers. Looking back, Van Dijk was a good example. It does seem like it was him or absolutely no other fucker, right? That was clearly the case. But then legend has it that Julian Brandt was sought early in Klopp's era, Mario Götze, and Liverpool ended up with Sadio Mane and Mo Salah as second choices. There's probably some other examples I'm not thinking of. Do you think it's credible that this idea that there's no plan B that they'll tolerate for a number 6? Do you think it's credible, or do you think we're just being, they're just pushing away? It's just, what's the word? It's just distraction so that people aren't on their cases.
Usually I'd say no, because there is usually other options. But being serious here, even if you had 100 million, 120, 150 million right now, who would you go and throw it at in holding midfield? There's not a list of players where you can go, right, that deal's fell through, we'll pay a bit more money and go for somebody else. People say Guimaraes from Newcastle, he's just signed a 5-year deal this year. He had a 100 million release clause that ran out in June. That's off the table. That's not happening. Realistic options. We can't go and throw 120 million at someone because they're not there. So this thing about reopening with Zubamendi.
But do you know what? Can I just take you back 1 second? Do you rewind 2-3 weeks pre-Zubamendi? We were saying exactly the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. There are no 100 million lads out there. And no one was saying, but you could have Zubamendi, for 50 million. Yeah. No one was saying that. And then suddenly there was Zubamendi, and we went, oh yeah, obviously we could have Zubamendi. He sounds great. What I'm wondering is, are there a few more Zubamendi? Oh, maybe.
I think there's
You think there is?
Yeah. I think,
sorry, I interrupted you.
All right, no, it's all right.
I don't think Zubamendi is in the same class as a Van Dijk, if you see what I mean. Like when Liverpool were getting Van Dijk, he was quite clearly an absolute game changer, elite. Very few compatible players on the market that were anywhere near his level. So to wait 6 months for that when the initial thing fell through made plenty of sense. I think with Zubamendi, that the initial move for Zubimendi for me suggests that Liverpool were willing to compromise a bit and drop below maybe a little bit, you know, what they would usually view as the gold standard almost. I don't think Zubimendi was that. I think he's a good player.
Not like transformed to us. He's just a part of the jigsaw, basically.
Yeah. I bigged him up and all that, and I said, like, you know, 7 out of 10 in virtually every department, no major weaknesses, steady Eddie kind of vibe. So if you're going to target it, don't get me wrong, very good though, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to target someone like that and you don't get him, I'm not sure he's like on a different level to all the other options where you say, like, you know,
let's have some names.
Just wait.
No one else is the.
Let's have some names, Josh. You know what you're talking about. Come on, name names. Give me some alternatives.
This is where I'm struggling. I can't think of anyone who's realistic. I think of good players, but not someone who usually just signed for someone or just signed a 5-year deal.
Varella's probably the one.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Varella's the one who kept cropping up beforehand, wasn't it? The Porto lad, Varela. Like he was the one who kept, like, whenever we had chats and it was like, oh, maybe Zubimendi, maybe it'd be Varela.
Palacios?
Would be the other one. Yeah.
Don't even know where he plays.
Gets injured a bit more.
Sorry?
Gets injured a bit more.
Does he?
Palacios for Leverkusen.
Yeah, that's the lad, yeah.
Yeah, he gets injured a bit. There's a lad for
Fits
Leon.
in lovely.
Sorry.
Fits in lovely round here.
We love those lads.
There's a lad for Leon who I like. Maxence Kakara, I think is his name. But
name.
he's not. Yeah, it's difficult to pronounce as well if you're Scouse. But he's not like a specialist lone six though. You could get him and he'd offer similar perks, but I don't think he's like Fabinho, and I don't think he's necessarily as much of a lone guy as Zubimendi could be. But he's just a good midfielder who'll aid your build up in deeper areas and that, and good age, been on the scene for a while, plays lots of minutes. But he's only about, I don't know, 5'9" or something like that, 5'10" or something, so he's not like a unit or anything, but he's technical and stuff. But I just think if you're going to go for Zubimendi, you're not going to get him. There is alternatives to Zubimendi. You know, that the 6 market is not great, but there's alternatives to him.
The Zubimendi thing, though, it's obvious that the reason it's fell through is because of the issue about him having to activate his own release clause and being the bad guy in Sociedad or La Real, and the press being on his back. All these things that you've seen it happen before with Gerrard, and we've seen it. We'll probably see it happen again with Trent in the near future when a big team's coming in for a player and the narrative's going to be he's forced his way out, and that's not with the team or the city or the fans' blessing. I think obviously the 60 million quid wasn't enough for Sociedad to be like, no, you're not going nowhere, even if you have got a release clause. But maybe there is a figure, whether it's 80, whether it's 90, whether he's worth that as well, by the way, of course. When it becomes not about a release clause anymore, it's, as you say,
his value.
This money's too much, we want you to go. And then in that case, he's no longer the bad guy. He gets the blessing from the team, the fans, the family, etc. And the deal's still possible. But at this point in time, I wouldn't expect Trent to come out publicly and activate his own release clause and say, look, I'm out of here. Like, it wouldn't happen like that. It just, if Trent's option or anyone local lad's option was to leave for a bit, like say Real Madrid, for example, use that as an example, he's not going to be the one who comes out and absolutely forces it. He's going to have blessing from fans and players, and I think that's where what's made it fall through.
You see, that's an interesting angle. It sort of takes me back to the first question in a way. Could there even be something in that mad report? Because the player could turn round to the club or to the public and go, do you know what? My respect for my hometown club is so much that I'm tearing up my own release clause. I'll stay, but if the club need and get an offer at a certain level, I'm prepared to go. And so that everyone all round's happy. The club get a bigger fee. I haven't forced their hand with the release clause, and he can go with his head held high. But it's a delicate PR thing. And from Liverpool's point of view, Kieran, I'll stay with you on this. It's Liverpool. I mean, the other boys have talked about it. It's a hard sell from Liverpool to go from triggering a release clause to paying another 15-odd million and justifying that as not being just mugs.
I get that, but I go back to the point of saying I can't see a big list of options where if there's another option which is 75, 80, 100 million, I go and do it now, but I can't identify anybody that's perfect. So if it's a case of another 15 million, 20 million quid, which for them is like, wow, this is now big money. We didn't anticipate getting £80 million this summer. I think there could be a conversation where they say to the player, look, we're going to accept this bid. You are actually now free to go and triple your wages and play for Liverpool if that's what you want to do. So, I mean, I know what you're saying. There'll be people who say Liverpool were looking cheap initially, but We were, mate, me really. Like, that's what we were trying to do. There was a buyout clause there. At one point, it seemed like we had the player on side. We could have pressed the button and just went boom, but we didn't. We wanted to structure the deal over a couple of years, players involved, etc., etc. And it seems to me like there was a point where we could have just went bang, pressed the button and got him in. Do you know what I mean? But maybe that's what we did, and when we pressed the button, it turns out that he had to be the one who comes out and says, well, I'm buying this £50-odd million out my own money and I'm leaving this club no matter what happens. It's just a bit of a mad narrative for a local lad who's obviously well respected.
I think what happens, yeah, I agree with all that. I think what happens as well is that all his conversations, because there's a release clause, him and his agent are not talking to the club at all. It's all one way with Liverpool. And the minute they're all going, do you want to come? Yeah, I want to come. Liverpool, yeah, we'll pay the release clause more or less. Now let's bring in your club. Everyone's shaking hands on the one side of the deal. Then suddenly Sociedad are going, whoa, what's going on here? Wait, what? And they then do that charm offensive. They get a bit more antsy about it, and, you know, hang him out to dry in public a little bit potentially.
I was going to say, it's pretty clear they are willing to go for the money as well. Because like I remember being on shows a couple of weeks ago. I think it was maybe Neil had talked about the Mikel Moreno deal looking more complicated than the Zubimendi deal because there's an absence of a release clause there. And yeah, it seems like Arsenal are going to be able to go and get that done if you believe what Fabrizio Romano has been sort of saying this week. So it feels like there is a price point where La Real will look at it and go, you know, all these players have a price on them basically, and Zubimendi has a price on them, and obviously their price can be 60 million because that's the release clause, 60 million euros. But if Liverpool turn around and go, well, here's 65, 70, then I'd be really interested to see whether that would force the hand, because suddenly, like as Keo says, suddenly then Zubimendi doesn't even really have to get involved in the whole, like he can do the listen, you know, I wanted to be loyal to the club, but the club ultimately want the money. You've seen that by the other fella they sold, and then Moreno as well. So it's, like, I think there is clearly a price on this player, and the other thing is, like, if because you said before, Rob, like, would Liverpool look like mugs if they put an extra 10 or 15 million on top or whatever? Well, like, we're basically saying this fella's our number one target and that there's no one else.
We look like mugs if we didn't get him.
Exactly. Like this again. Well, this like comes.
That's a fair point. It's devil of the deep blue sea. You know,
it comes back to what I said before. Like, if you've not got a plan B, then really you should be doing everything to make your plan A happen. Like, that to me is mad to be like, oh yeah, he's our plan A, but no, we'll only pay this sort of like nominal fee that's basically done because it's contractual. That's it's a strange one for me.
It is, and I do think that's a fair last point that you're both making, is that, you know, at the end of the day, whatever loss of face Liverpool suffered through an apparent overpayment, you know, they'd regain by simply the fact that everyone would be delighted, including the manager, by the way, that they had a player on their hands. Yeah. I think where we are, Josh Williams, is the trouble is if he doesn't come in, and now with the clock ticking on the end of the window, the likes of Newcastle are not likelier to sell Anthony Gordon to us now than they were in the recent past. What's looming is the potential of 0 signings by the end of the window. You know, if you're a betting man, you're not going to necessarily bet against that. And you look at that and you combine it with the fact that none of the 3 big contract renewals have yet happened. And you go, it's just a sense of inertia around the club, a sense that, what the fuck are you doing, lads? Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, they will know much more than we have, and much more than we do, and they'll have their reasons why they haven't been able to trigger transfers or these contract renewals. But at the end of the day, it's a results business. Liverpool may lose their first 3 games, and there may be good reasons behind the scene for it, but no one's going to give a fuck. It's going to be 3 defeats. And if you get to the end of the window and you haven't secured these 3 crucial contracts, or at least 1 or 2 of them, and you've secured nobody, it's hard to defend that, isn't it? And who are we attacking here? Though not the manager, but those above him.
Yeah, I think the theme of the summer has been patience, really, Anna. On the pitch with what Slot's been installing, but also in terms of the fans being patient with this new regime and giving them time to assess what they're doing and all that stuff. And it feels like the past couple of weeks, it's been like, right, we're being patient, let's move. We've tried to move, it's fell through and stuff, and it's now getting to a point where it's trickling slightly towards panic, do you think?
I would say, yeah.
We're getting towards the end of the window where it's like, I think if clubs can sense that panic too, you can get taken to the cleaners a little bit with your payments and stuff, and any interest that you show in any player, that club knows Liverpool hasn't signed anyone yet, and the last fella they tried to sign failed. Because that happened, is it now a case of Liverpool won't go in for another fella unless they know it's going to happen, definitely? You know, because you've already lost a bit of face by missing out on Zubamendi. So, yeah, I think we probably need to not get carried away, because, as you say, that they know a lot more than we do, and you know, they're very qualified in what they do and all that stuff. But it's finely balanced at the minute, isn't it, when it comes to people losing their heads? I mean, a lot of people already have, to be fair.
Yes, indeed, I have. Don't look at me, Josh, but yeah, it's true. And look, I'll go back to the fact is, all the respect is out there, and I am absolutely as fickle as the next one, prepared to be swayed by a couple of signings straight away. And I can genuinely go either way on this one. I like you just used the word patience. I feel like I've been prepared to be patient. I think most of the fans have been prepared to be patient. But patience has to have its reward, you know? Patience, you know, what's the expression? Patience is its own reward. Well, it needs a fucking reward here. Where's the reward, lads? Because I just think psychologically, whatever the reasons, whatever the reasonable excuses are, Josh Sexton, it doesn't instill confidence in fans. It doesn't instill confidence in the squad about the club. Let's put it this way. If you were umming and ahhing about what Liverpool are going to look like in the future because you were considering signing a new contract or not, you're not suddenly likelier to sign it because they bought fucking no one. You know, players aren't dissimilar to fans in this respect.
Yeah, they want to know there's that sort of blueprint for the future, don't they? And that was one of the reasons why I was dead excited to see what new signings would come in over the summer, really, to give us that indication of what Slot was thinking, the way he was looking to set up his team. Because like we've had loads of clues about that in pre-season, but I still don't really know for sure, and probably won't until we get into the sort of real thick of the season now. Whereas that first, signing or two through the door, like I keep going back to, Klopp's first summer when he signed Mane and Wijnaldum, and you look at how important those two players were, sort of playing in different positions to what they played for their clubs at the time, with Mane coming off the right and Wijnaldum being, a de facto number 8, having basically been a left winger /10 for his whole career. So that was why I was interested to see, who Slot would bring in over the summer. And I think there's this thing for me where we're all being a little bit like retrospectively strange about the Endo signing, and I just mean the sign, I don't mean the player here, where we're basically all going, well, we don't want to do an Endo again. Why don't we want to do an Endo again? Because Endo was fitted into Klopp's system. He was great for most of the season. Basically, the thing that has changed Endo now is that he doesn't suit Slot's system. So why can't we go out and find the fella who is an Endo for Slot's system in the way Endo was for Klopp's system? Like, I don't understand why there's not even that out there if we don't think that we have the number 6 in house. And if we do think we have the number 6 in house, then I'd quite like to know who that fella is as well. And maybe it's not on the club to sort of come out and be like, oh, it's McAllister or it's Jones or whoever, because they want to keep that competition for places open. But I think that's where my sort of level of tetchiness lies, really, is just like almost wanting to have that information on, like, what does this look like, how does it work, and then almost be able to build off that in terms of, even when Keo says before, like, who are the names out there. If I knew who the names who were playing the 6 were, I'd maybe be a bit more like free with the names who I think would be better in the market.
Endo's an interesting case in point, Keo. He had an interesting season last season. We think we buy him for around 16 million plus add-ons. There's a point in the season, again, around this peak we hit around Feb, March, where you go, that's a fucking bargain, wasn't it? Even allowing for his age or what have you, that's a bargain, it looks better. The times by the end of the season when he was giving the ball away for fun at Old Trafford, you think 16 million looked a touch steep. And in pre-season, he's been shite, to be technical about it, right?
Yeah.
So there is an argument, I would say, that you started at the beginning of the show going, well, the fucking 100 million lads aren't out there, which is absolutely correct. But the 25 million lads are out there. And if we just do it in straight sort of crude percentage terms, a 25 million lad is arguably worth 50%. He's arguably 50% better than friggin' Endo. And I'm being simplistic, but do you know what I mean?
No,
there's a lot of upgrades and comfortable upgrades out there.
I think that depends on Endo, though, and the fact that he's staying here, and we have got about 6 or 7 players who can arguably play in this position here.
That's a fair point.
I understand that we want the main man, we want the next Fabinho, we want the next number 6 that starts every single week. But when you've got Endo and you've got Jones and McAllister and Gravenberch, and there's players who can slot in there, whether there's an injury, whether there's not. Back to this Edwards model, we know that Liverpool won't go and sign an 8th one who's just another squad player. Do you know what I mean? So it probably is a case of waiting for your man and getting it right. And There is an argument here for not to like over panic, and because we're not a million miles away from where we need to be, in the sense of we missed an absolute bag full of sitters last year, and we conceded 25 times first, like 18 times in the first 10 minutes. It's not a massive, huge problem to fix. It's actually like pretty simple. Stop missing sitters and stop like pissing goals the other end, and you'll be in a better position. We're only 3 or 4 wins away from a title here. The year we won the league, I think we finished 25 points behind City.
12 points ahead of City.
The year before. Year before we won it.
Oh, yes.
So the year before we won it, we finished 20-odd points off City. And I think
2 years before,
I think we brought in Van der Berg and Adrian. And everyone was panicking. Like, how are we going to close the gap? We've only brought in Adrian and Van der Berg. Like, one's a second, third choice keeper. I understand he plays that season, and one doesn't never ever play for the first team.
Yeah.
So if we'd done that again this season, if we just brought in 2 players that were just players, would we all feel better? Would we all feel equipped for the title like we were in 1920? So there's an argument here of players aren't the be-all and end-all, and sometimes signings, aren't the be-all and end-all. Sometimes we've had summers where we haven't brought in names when we wanted to, and we've gone and kicked on. So if I'm leaning towards getting the right man and getting that starting 6, whether that happens now or January, as opposed to bringing in another Endo and having an 8th or 9th headache trying to find out who's the best one to play there this season, if you know what I mean.
I do. Look, I'm in all messing aside, frame the show as though it's a disaster. I did say we're only 2 or 3 wins away from me not giving a fuck who we signed, right? As well, I do think the case you've just made eloquently is, and I think I had the sense of it going back in February. It's a deep squad full of good players, and also they're quite young players. So the positives, in fact, I think I had this on the agenda. Reasons to be cheerful, positives. We can come on to that, but there is a case for it, because you could look at the likes of Curtis Jones, who's still young, Harvey Elliott, who's still young, etc., etc. You go through that squad. Even McAllister's young. They've all got room for improvement. You can look at all of them and go, I don't think they've hit their ceiling yet. Only the lads who are over 30, you can say that about. But there is still one nagging thing for me, Josh. I can park the transfer anxiety. I can say we were very unlucky on Zubimendi, and we may still yet sign someone like Anthony Gordon. And you could have said, if we'd finished this window with Zubimendi and Anthony Gordon, well, there you go. It's a good summer, that. Decent. Well done, lads. Fair play to them. What wankers were having a go back then, right? You can say all that. Where I'm not entirely thrilled is that we've got these 3 massive contracts still unresolved, and it's not there's time. These things happen. They're waiting for the perfect moment to announce. It's 16 days to the end of the window. I mean, okay, so they could sign them at the beginning of September, the beginning of October, but traditionally, once a player is in that final year, it's because they've got one thing on their mind, and that's seeing it out and getting the hell out of Dodge. That is what history tells us. And I do wonder, the club will always say in terms of contracts, hey, we can't talk about it, it's private, it's between us and the player. And that was said by Slot and Hughes when they had that press conference together. But there comes a point where these are icons and heroes of the fans, Trent, Salah and Van Dijk. We kind of need to be updated really on these ones. Any hopes, lads? Do you not feel?
Yeah, it is strange. Like, I did think they would get tackled fairly early on, before we went in the market, actually, personally, but it doesn't seem to be the case. And I think the only thing I can think of as to why that is maybe Liverpool want to do the transfer market first, see who we get in, this opportunistic signings thing and all that, see who we get, and by the end of the window, then we'll have a bit of a clearer picture as to who we've added to the squad. In this case, it could be nobody. And then you know what you need more from the future or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe when it comes to getting players in, signings-wise, you have a window to do it, and once the window closes, it's finished, whereas the contracts can happen at Christmas if we want them to. So,
yeah.
I mean, not that we want that. You do want to tie these players down sooner rather than later, especially when it comes to Trent. But I'm with you. I don't know what the delay is. I think it's odd. But you've got to hope that they all want to stay and all that.
And this is adding to the tetchiness, I think, isn't it? This is where, like, I think people would have a little bit more patience for transfers if the contracts were getting sorted or vice versa. It feels like, again, like Liverpool are putting themselves in a position to be basically had off by the players, and I don't sort of believe that would be the case with Trent. It's almost a sliding scale, really. Like we've always felt like Salah is the one where, you know, there's probably a little bit of resignation from us all. Like Salah's best move will come as a free agent, basically. Like he'll be able to go and do whatever he wants as a free agent, get paid as much money as he wants to, and there's not going to be, you know, one of these clubs who was just hamstrung by their own FFP laws and rules and stuff like that in whatever country. Then they're not going to be hamstrung by that. They're going to be able to go and get Salah and pay him 750 grand a week or something like that. Van Dijk probably sits in the middle of that, in that we're all like, Van Dijk is still brilliant, still has loads to offer to Liverpool. We still all love him to bits, but he's also getting to an age where, you know, he's not getting any younger, is he? Like he is coming towards the point where we'd have to think about replacing him anyway. With Trent, like Trent is one of our sort of like spiritual leaders, in the sense like he's just one of the lads in the team who we look at and go, well, he's our boy, isn't he? Like he's the lad who we felt like we've had a team built around for the last couple of years, in terms of him sort of having this hybrid right back centre mid role. Certainly for much of last season, it felt that way. It feels like he's a big part of the future. He's talked about staying at the club forever. He's talked about being captain and stuff like that. So it's sort of strange, really, that Liverpool once again leaving it, because, like you say, Rob, we've been stung by this in the past. We've been stung by this around Steven Gerrard. I don't know if we were sort of stung by it around Wijnaldum and such, but you know, they were ultimately players who got into last year of the contracts. The negotiations just seemed to never really get to the point where
that was our choice, I think.
I think so. I think so to an extent.
With Wijnaldum,
but with the Gerrard one, I know Gerrard's sort of almost a forgotten time now, because it's pre-Klopp, and it was Edwards still. So there is that sort of like almost being a bit stung by this in the past, where I'm probably getting to, especially around Trent now, especially with Madrid sniffing around as much as they are as well.
I think there's a possibility the club are actually only thinking properly about one contract at the minute, and that being Trent's. I think there's a possibility that Van Dijk at 33, 34 by the time his contract's up, asking for 350 grand a week. There's a potential that doesn't work for Edwards and Hughes, having your right back and your centre half on 700 grand a week. I think there's a possibility that Trent is the main one, and I've resigned to Salah leaving next summer. I think he sees his contract out, so there's now we're down to two main contracts with Van Dijk and Salah. And I think there's a possibility here that you look at Van Dijk at 34 and go, we're going to give him a 3-year deal at 300 grand a week, and there's a potential in 12, 18 months he's not starting. Do you know what I mean? Which is a massive, massive investment. So I think what Josh Williams said there is right, in the sense of we can get these deals done after the window, and there's so many man hours you can put into a transfer window, and there's so many hours in a day. Right now, you're going to be sitting across the table with Trent and his brother talking about clauses in contracts, when we've literally just had a transfer fall through, and there's 9 to 5 to ring the phones in across Europe and try and get something done. Do you know what I mean? Whereas once that door slams shut, bring Trent into the room, and we've got the next 3 or 4 months to negotiate this. So, yeah, but I do think there's a possibility that out of them three, like only one of them actually signs a deal, and that'd be Trent.
And probably only one of them fits our strategy around that, really, don't they? Because you're right to mention that, like, we've traditionally not given massive contracts to older lads like this. It's not really been the way we've done things. Like, we'd probably do that if we could say to them, listen, it's a year with an option, or it's just a flat 2 years, and maybe 2 years with an option even. It's not very Liverpool, and it's definitely not very Michael Edwards, I wouldn't say, to be handing out massive contracts to older lads. But it comes back to the Trent one for me. Like, the Trent one for me is the one where you just think just that seems like it should be so easy to go and get that done. Like, go and get it done.
I'm nervy over it a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an argument here? I mean, he'd get some stick if this was true, but do you reckon there's an argument here if he's given it a little bit of time to see where Liverpool are at under this new manager?
100%. I think that's a fact.
If Liverpool end up battling for fourth or finish just outside in fifth, and then Real Madrid come knocking with 400 grand a week and a chance to go and play with Bellingham, it's like Liverpool are 2 or 3 years away from a title here. And you know, I might not be captain in this team for another 2 or 3 years anyway. Yeah. I want to go now. Whereas if Liverpool end up pushing Man City for the title, or going to a European Cup final, winning it, and he thinks this team's winning trophies again, I'm the next one with the armband on, I'm going to lift some stuff at this club, I'm going to sign. maybe there's a possibility that the money's been offered, but Trent hasn't signed it yet. Do you know what I mean?
I mentioned the Gerrard comparison as well before. Like, he's a bit of a cautionary tale to Trent in sort of in both ways, really, isn't he? In that, like, Gerrard maybe wishes he could have left Liverpool earlier than he did to go and have that sort of like fulfilled career elsewhere, because he was basically just dragging shite Liverpool teams through shite seasons effectively. And if Keogh says, if Trent's sitting there going, I might end up being Steven Gerrard in that I'm dragging shite Liverpool teams through shite seasons, but also Steven Gerrard basically said himself, he said, I regret when I left Liverpool because I'd have loved to have that time under Jurgen Klopp, but he left it too late. He left it too late to do that. So there could be that playing in the back of Trent's mind as well. Like, here's my opportunity to get this move to it is a Galacticos Real Madrid side again now, isn't it? Like, they should be favourites for the Champions League and everything that they're competing for this season with the talent they have. Trent's looking at that. His best mate Bellingham's already there. The lads he's been on holiday with over the whole summer are all already there. It feels like it's getting to that point where Liverpool needs to really put the foot down with it.
And he's won everything with us as well, which is also a factor when you're thinking about your futures. Like, I've literally ticked every single box there is to tick.
Apart from he hasn't been the captain, and I think that that's why he's got a big decision to make. I don't think at the end of the day, if Liverpool turn around in a couple of weeks' time or whatever and goes, we're ending negotiations with these players because every one of the fuckers wants too much money, or they just clearly don't. I mean, for all we know, Trent saying I want 600 grand a week and I want a 70 million release clause, and that's it. If you don't give me that, I'm not signing. Right? I'm not saying Trent would do it, but it's possible. What I'm getting at, I've got to come to you, Josh Williams, on this one. It could be out of the club's hands quite soon, more or less, as near as damn it, right? In fact, I think they have to be facing up to the fact that they don't control the situation truly anymore, because the players are in the last year of their contracts. They can call the shots. They can listen to all kinds of other clubs now. Money's going to be being thrown at them all, because all these other clubs are going to go, what, Trent or Van Dijk or Salah for fucking nothing in 9 months' time? We'll have a big piece of that. How much they want? I don't care what the wages are. And there's more than one club who will be thinking that way at the moment. I mean, there was some wild piece the other day that said Arsenal have asked Trent's agent to be kept informed about Trent's situation. I thought, for fuck's sake, right? But you know what? When the price is free in 9 months' time or whatever the months are, clubs are going to think like that. So what I'm getting at is it's beginning to be out of Liverpool's control. So what are you thinking now if you're the boys at the top now, Edwards and Hughes? What are you thinking now? Because you're facing, we're whinging this season about no number 6, maybe a bit of cover at centre-back and maybe another left winger needed. What does it look like next summer? Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, are we then scratching around for going, oh no, it's only got to be the right guy, or we're not buying anyone? Well, Jesus wept.
I think the thing with the transfer stuff, if you look back at the start of Klopp's tenure, I think one of the reasons we just went and signed Mane and Wijnaldum and Matip and all that is just the inherited a terrible squad.
Yeah.
The squad was crap. So there was easy gains to make. It was like a 65-point squad or something, not a push probably. And we ended up making it like an 85-point squad, pushing even further than that because Klopp is just a brilliant manager and all that. I think now the reason we're a bit more hesitant and being a bit more specific with the transfers is because the team already has a very high ceiling when it comes to points. Like, I think this season Liverpool will finish third. If Liverpool add Zubimendi, I think Liverpool finish third. I think Liverpool finish third if they add pretty much any DM in the market, with the exception of a Rodri or someone like that, obviously. So that's what Liverpool are looking at now in terms of their current level. But if you take Trent, Van Dijk and Salah out of that, you have a real drop.
That's in a year's time, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the number of points that you're competing at.
Yeah.
Just massive hit. So I think even Van Dijk, even at his age, a decline might be coming sometime soon or whatever. But if you think of what Van Dijk is worth to Liverpool over a full season in terms of points, it is tons, mate. It's tons. Yeah. Like, just purely set pieces at both ends. Take him out the picture. You just concede 5 more there, and you score a few less at the opposite end. And every goal is probably worth about a point, I think, is the typical take on that. So, the defensive ability that he has, allowing everyone else to go forward.
So what's the cost of replacing him?
He plays every game as well.
So what's the cost next summer? You've got no Van Dijk. He's gone. He's retired to wherever. You've seen out his contract. You're not getting much change out of 100 million unless your scouting's ridiculous, and so cute, and you pull off a new Van Dijk,
I
20
think-
million. You're talking the 100 million plus lad. And that's if he's available, right?
I think with Van Dijk, you've maybe got to do a little bit of what we seem to be doing with Alisson, where you already get his replacement in the building. He works under him for a bit, and then gradually takes the reins, and you don't really notice that he's gone almost.
Like Kwanzaa.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. But you probably want to left footer out there, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen weird links to Bastoni, which I actually love, but I just can't see happening. Like,
Well, like, he's like basically the market leader at the moment, isn't he? Because
he's the best you can get.
Yeah, if you have to go out and replace Van Dijk in a year's time, then I think we'd all be asking for Bastoni, because we basically lost out on the lad that we wanted to cheat with this year with Yoro, weren't we? So
that might be what we're doing. Maybe
That might be what we're
maybe
doing,
we're putting feelers out there for Bastoni and seeing, do we keep Van Dijk for another year, age 34, or do we let him go and throw all that money at Bastoni, who's 26, is he, or something like that, 25? Can't remember his age, mate, but he's the best out there at the minute, left footer, centre half and all that, belter. So maybe that's the kind of, like, you know, assessment that we're doing with the market at the minute.
So that's Van Dijk replaced. Who's replacing Salah now? Next summer.
Again,
After he's bagged another 20-odd goals.
Think of the goal you're losing, mate.
Well, I know, right?
And the chances that you think of the output you're losing at both ends with those three players.
That's why it's
You
called
need
the gutter.
Yeah, you've never felt so low, have you?
terrible for your mental health.
This is without doubt, though, the bigger concern than Uber getting in as a 6. Honestly,
It's
also
also
agree.
if you that 6 thing, Super Mendy keeps Liverpool at third, in my opinion. You'd say Van Dijk out of Liverpool jumped to about 6th, about 5th or 6th or something like that. That's how big, and same with Salah. That's how big these players are.
It's almost like we need another centre half to be coming through, being prepared, isn't it? Like this summer.
These are the transformers that you should be worrying about, mate. The lads who are already in the building.
What kind of position are you leaving yourself in next summer, though? If, for example, we talked about 3 contracts there. Imagine they don't end up resolving them. So now you've got to replace Trent, Salah, Van Dijk. We haven't got number 6 yet. There's rumours Diaz wants to leave. The keeper's coming towards the end of his tenure. Like,
No, we are doing something about him.
Yeah.
taking a turn
So
now, this pod, mate.
I've done something about him. Richard Hughes' first signing for Liverpool was for his old club.
Yeah.
So we've done something
Agent
there.
Hughes.
We've done something there. But you know what I'm trying to do? You're looking at a big bill if you're going to try and have a summer where you're going to get like 3, like say some of the biggest points. Just like to people who get the points in and people who stop the points going out in Van Dijk and Salah. I mean that alone is a massive job in a transfer market to go and replace your 2 main men. That's without trying to find a number 6 because you failed last year, and that's without like the Diaz popping up and saying he's off and somebody else popping up and saying they're off. It just ends up in a bit of a mess, doesn't it? So maybe now there's an argument for, if you can't get your 6, go and get your centre half now. Go and get your winger now and start bedding them in. So it's not a big massive. You're gonna end up having a transition season 2 years into Slot's tenure after having one with Klopp already. You end up in 3 years of transition when all we have to do is bring in a few names through the door. I'm up for transfers now.
Well, you can see what we think. This is
Been on a
what
journey there, lad.
This is why. Yeah, you did. It's always a journey. You start one place, you end up another. I mean, this is why I think, if we could get Anthony Gordon in and not lose Luis Diaz, you know, for once it worked not for once, but it worked the right way round. Josh Williams, I mean, that would start in the season with 6. You'd then go, well, hang on. Now, what you'd probably see if we started the season with 6 elite forwards, there's a lot of fucking ifs. If Diaz stays, if Anthony Gordon came in. You probably end up resting Salah a lot more than you would have in the past. You probably see some goals coming from other parts of the front 6. You know, Núñez might start bagging a few more. Diaz might be played nearer the goal. I don't know. So you get to the end of the season and go, well, Salah's waving us goodbye. That's a bit sad, but we don't have to necessarily buy a £120 million player now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So getting the odd signing in now would help.
With these ones especially that we're talking about, Van Dijk, Alisson and Salah, they're the 3. It's not necessarily a spine, I suppose, because Salah's playing on the flanks, but they've been the 3 pillars of strength for Liverpool during like the peak when we won the Champions League and everything, and they are now kind of coming to the end a little bit. So what determines Liverpool are going to stay where they are in the post-Klopp era, I think, is just the ability to replace them as opposed to the ability to find another Klopp. I think Klopp's just a complete unicorn in terms of his personality and stuff, but those 3 players, the lads who kick the ball on the pitch, they're the ones who've delivered for Liverpool. They're the players who you need to find a way to retain that level when they're not there. And that's not going to be easy. So getting in the Georgian keeper, I'm generally in favour of. I like what I see with him. But finding another Salah with that level of output and finding another Van Dijk who can make that much of a difference to your points total is just not easy, mate. So
Salah numbers are scary, aren't they? When you look back,
you
look back,
it's just nearly impossible to replace that output, and that's the thing. Like, you think back to when Salah came in, like no one was expecting. Like, Salah wasn't brought in to bring that output. He wasn't brought in to score 44 goals or whatever it was in his first season. He was brought in, and we were all going, "I struggled at Chelsea. You know, he might not do very much for us." And then he just explodes. Like, Liverpool basically have to go out and find that next one, because they're not going out and signing the next Haaland, are they? They're not going out and signing the lad who guarantees you output. Like, it seems that most clubs don't even think that's Osimhen this summer, when they probably did last summer, because he seems to be pretty freely, 90 million available, but relatively freely available this summer, and no one's going out and getting him. So it's just impossible to replace guaranteed 25 goals a season.
Well, I've got a slight difference of opinion on the Salah situation. I think replacing a keeper like Alisson, Alisson's a unicorn. He's one of the greatest keepers to have ever played the game. And Van Dijk is... People will have conversations, is he the greatest defender to have ever played the game? So Josh's point about the loss and the uncompensatable loss of players like that is very, very true. Now, Salah is one of, a handful of players who you can say are the best Liverpool players of all time, right? No doubt about it. But I'd say we've seen 18 months of very subtle decline from Salah. Actually, not that subtle. I think he's nowhere near the peak. I think he's great sometimes. And if he was a new signing and you'd seen him in pre-season, what a fucking player he is. This iteration of Salah's a really great player, but it is not the same as peak Salah. He scored 25 goals last season. 7 of them are penalties, and one of them was when he put his own rebound in after missing a penalty. So just devil's advocate here on Salah. It's not me damning him, but take those 8 away from Salah, and you're down at 17 goals, right?
Which is still make him our second top scorer, third top scorer.
Well, it's one less than Darwin Núñez, who's supposedly a big flop, right? I think there's an interesting thing. I'm not damning Salah, but there is something that Ian Graham said, in some of the rounds of media he's done or in extracts from his book, that a team shouldn't have, I think the words he used, shouldn't have more than 2 shooters in the side. Did anyone see this?
Yeah.
What he mainly meant is you're targeting 2 players to be putting the ball in the net for you, right? And to that end, Salah's output and his position as the supreme output guy in our history under Klopp is not entirely just about how brilliant Mo Salah is. It's because we realised that he's the guy we have to build the team around. Now, we could build it, if we focused our team around another one of our front 5 or 6, you may see, we may start focusing our team, let's hypothetically, around Anthony Gordon, and he may go up from his 11 goals at Newcastle to bagging 23 in a year or 2 years' time. So I'm not as concerned about the loss of Salah, because I think we've already lost Salah, and I think we nearly won a bloody league.
I don't think so.
We didn't, not lost Salah, but we got a 70% version of Salah last season.
I think his game's changed.
We're losing him, aren't we? Yeah.
The thing is with Salah, though, it's not just the output, it's the dynamic that he offers you as the player who loves the right side and cuts in using his left. Those players are just harder to find. And
left-footers.
Yeah. As I said on a show a couple of weeks ago, if you think of all the great teams like ever, they all had a reliable, massive threat on the right side who was left-footed, or some form of left-footed forward in there, maybe when it was a bit more 4-4-2. So Messi in the great Barca side, Robin, Salah in the Liverpool side, even Giggs with Man United, and that you've always got that dynamic. You've always got goals from here, but also here as well. If Liverpool lose Salah and just put Gordon over there or put Diaz over there or something, you might get assists from over there, but you don't really get the actual goals. I think to have goals from every side of the pitch, if you know what I mean, that elevates you to
So you need a quality left footer. I agree with you.
Yeah, but one with output though, and they're just generally not easy to find. There's just less of them out there.
It's not just goals as well. With Salah, it's assists and the amount he creates, and we have a season last season where I noticed anyway, Salah's game changed slightly in the sense he wasn't always playing on the shoulder last defender. It wasn't always about bags of pace and cutting inside. I think there was about a stat or something like 40 odd big chances created by Salah that end up getting ballooned. So
Really?
yeah, something mad,
By Darwin.
something mad like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to double check that. But the point I'm making is he's putting it on a plate for people now. And if we can all admit around this table, we missed far too many chances last year.
Yeah.
And if some of our strikers converted those chances, we'd be sitting here talking about Salah now, like the assists are now outweighing the goals because he created so much. And we've seen in pre-season how strong he was when he held that ball up. When the ball went long from Alisson, he held it up and the ball went through to. I think that's going to be his game under Slot. I don't think he's going to be pushed far out to the right, playing the game that he used to play.
I thought as well, though, the goal he scored against Arsenal, where he beat Gabriel in a race from the halfway line, I thought that was really just reassuring to see.
I suppose you're right, actually,
That he's, 32,
Yeah, we
still got that as well.
We're getting Salah with the summer off for the first time in.
I think
God
that's the
knows
key
how
with
long.
Salah.
Yeah.
I think it's freshness and how we use him. Look, before I get clipped, people say Salah is shite. It's not the same Mo Salah, and I just think
you're
we're
arguing
adjusting.
that he's a fading force, so we're losing him anyway.
I mean, I think we might need different solutions. I think is my point. It's not necessary. I take your point about having a left footer in the team.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a left footer who's the tip of the spear and finishes the move, if that's what you're saying.
No.
I agree with that, but you do need some form of quality, right-sided, natural who uses his left foot, I think. And
Harvey Elliott's left-footed, isn't he?
Yeah. Whether you view him as a forward, though, is a question.
I got a load of stick on a show maybe last summer for saying like because you can't replace Salah's output, you just go and get someone like because Jared Bowen's left foot off the right, isn't he? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And he would give you maybe 15 goals a season, but then you try and find the goals elsewhere on the pitch, and you maybe go and sort of look at that. But Bowen gives you that strong right-sided option. But I think I got called like a shit journalist for it or something.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst
Which I am,
idea.
to be fair.
He's too old, though, isn't he? How old is he?
She's 27.
No, he's older than that.
Is he?
Definitely
Is he?
older
Yeah.
than 27.
He might be heading for 28.
And he's got
but
like a contract till like 2030 or something.
So just imagine how you'd feel as well as Salah walks out the door. No disrespect to Bowen, I actually think he's a good player, and I actually really like him. You'd have to be gone, wouldn't it? Just thinking that Jared Bowen's got to deliver Salah's numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Unless, of course,
27.
unless of course you bought in an Anthony Gordon and he's next year's equivalent of. Let's put it this way: when we buy Mo Salah, he's not Mo Salah, right?
Of course,
He's
that's
not,
what I was saying.
and neither
Of course,
Sadio
yeah.
Mane. So you buy a young winger who's showing he's progressing in the right direction, posting some numbers, and suddenly he goes through the roof because he's playing in front of the Kop. He's surrounded by a good team, and he finds inspiration and a new level.
That's where we have to hope that Michael Edwards is back to his old Michael Edwards ways, because the person you're describing is basically Darwin. And maybe you could argue Gakpo as well. Like, we've already signed two lads who were putting up decent numbers, were doing bits of good goal scoring, and we've signed them both, and they've not yet hit those heights. So it is dead hard.
Yeah, I know, but I suppose they could argue they didn't have Fabinho or the peak Liverpool midfield behind them. So it's all a work in progress.
This is it, and I think it's important to remember. I mean, we've all been stressed out over the past couple of weeks of deals falling through and how we're handling things, but this policy built us the best team we've ever seen, this transfer policy.
Yeah, it did.
It built us the best football team I could ever imagine, and we went on to win absolutely everything. So
there was one X factor.
as you say, trust the people who are qualified and doing this, and that's all we can do, really.
There is an X factor. I'm playing devil's advocate because I think, let's put it this way, I'm really glad Michael Edwards came back, and I think his appointment of Richard Hughes seems a really sharp one. He seems like a really class operator, and I do think they broadly know what they're doing. We're going through a phase which is just testing our faith and nerve. There's no doubt about that. But again, because the trouble is with these debates, I've never felt it as much now. They're so 50-50. Like, someone wants to, I've played the part, if you like, of the neghead who's seeing only bad outcomes. And I think my case is strong enough to say those things, because the results are showing that. There's no signs the contract's not done. But if you want to be positive, there's a good squad, there's good players, and people behind the squad in Edwards who've proved themselves. The trouble is there's one missing X factor with the players and with those guys. And he's not fucking here, is he? He's sitting on a beach somewhere. Hi, Jurgen. So we're going to find out, aren't we? That's why we like this game. That's why we like chatting shit about transfers. And it could all change in a week's time, and I fucking well hope it does. But thanks, Kiel. What a debut, man.
What a debut.
What a debut. Thanks, Joshes, Sexton and Williams. And thanks, Sam, for filming us and taking us to a massive national audience all over the world with this free gutter. If this is the first time you've ever tuned in, I hope you've enjoyed it and you're getting some more of this shit soon.